If you are someone who is starting their career in software engineering or someone who is looking to switch from front end to back end, then this video will be helpful for you. Hello everyone, my name is Anubhav and I have been software backend engineer for around 8 or 9 years now. And in this video, I'll present a roadmap on how to be a beginner backend software engineer. So let's quickly get started. Now, my first suggestion to the category 1 people who are starting their career in software engineering is that do not go or do not have your career prospects based on the comparison between the front end or back end. My suggestion is go with whatever you have and then learn the things, and later if you like or dislike based on your choices, you can switch. But it's always important to start, and I have seen wonderful front end as well as wonderful back end engineer. So there is no comparison between the two and they both have a great career opportunities. Now let's first discuss that what exactly is the front end and what exactly is the back end so that we are on the same page. Whatever has a user interface can be called as the front end, and whatever does not have a user interface can be called as back end. It does not matter where that code runs. So for example, the things running on the browser or Android app or iOS app, they are the front end where they have the user interaction. It has buttons, it has the look and feel. Those are the front end part. And the things which do not have these are the back end. So things running on Windows machine, things running on Linux machine. They can be web server as well, owned by company or owned by you as well. So for example, if you have a Windows machine or a Linux operating system running on your machine, and in that case, what will happen is that there would be some background processes running. And these background processes can be developed by the backend engineer as well. What I'll do is that I'll have 5 different steps from the most important to the least important for the beginner software engineer. So the first thing is, let's get comfortable in one of the programming languages. You can choose one of the 3. That's my recommendation. Either choose Java, C# or Python. All of these programming languages have a huge share in the market, so you can choose any of those. C and C++ are optional. If you have learned in the past, then it's okay. If you have not learned them in the past, then directly jump to Java and C#. It's perfectly fine. The second thing is, my suggestion is to learn the basics level or the easy to medium level of data structures and algorithms problem. I'm not saying that you become a wizard in the competitive programming, but I expect you to write the basic programming code. For example, basics of arrays, linked list, trees, queues, and stack. So these 5 data structures are very important and you would be dealing with them in one way or the other. The dynamic programming and graphs are sort of optional, but still the basics are needed. And why that is needed, let's talk about that too. Most of the times when you are a software engineer, when you, let's say, when you are working on different things, you would be dealing with things like APIs. So let's say you are coding and now your code needs to get data from API 1, get data from the database, and let's say get data from API 2 as well. There are 3 different data available. One is available in a list, the other is available in a hash map or dictionary, and let's say third is available somewhere else in a file. Now you are expected to combine them properly, that node number 1 should map with node number 2, etc. So, and also at times you might have to take a max of list, etc. So that's the basic expectation from you, that you would not get stuck in writing a loop in the list. You would not get stuck, or you would not be confused in how to iterate over the list, how to get the max in a list, and things like those. So that's a basic expectation which is expected from a software engineer, that the basics of programming, you are okay enough in the programming to do these stuffs. The second is that if you practice the data structures, the basics of data structures, for example, you are practicing array and you get comfortable in the basics of the programming and the array questions, then you would naturally get better at the debugging part. So it will happen many times that somebody would come to you and say that, hey, this particular piece of code is not working as expected. What can I do? And then you would look into the code, you would see the function line by line. Maybe you would see the function who is calling this function and verify what are the inputs to that function, what are the validations done. So if you practice the data structures part, you would naturally become better at the debugging. I'm not again saying that be master of and the data structure, but definitely medium level of data structure is very important, and that will be the base. That's a ABCD for the next things. My second suggestion would be to start getting comfortable with the object-oriented concepts. Many people would have studied object-oriented programming in their college, but most of the time it's very theoretical. But it gets important to understand when to use interfaces, when to use abstract classes, when to use enums, encapsulation, inheritance. So the basics of these gets very important when you are dealing with a large code base. So if you are reading a code base, you need to understand the code flow. And if you are planning to contribute to that code base, you need to decide what exactly you need to do. You cannot just say that I'll start programming and whenever I think it's necessary, I'll create a new function. And whenever I think it's necessary, I'll create a new class. So the learning of object-oriented concepts become very important. My suggestion is to go via book. You can choose any book you want to, but the book which I learned from was the Head First Object-Oriented Programming. So that was a wonderful book. You can go by that book, go through the book page by page. It's a very interactive book, but will be a base for you for next many years. Now, once you have learned the basics of programming and the basics of object-oriented concepts, the next thing is to learn about the programming tools. You can learn about things like, if you are learning Java, then learn Maven. If you are learning C#, then you will learn a bit about NuGet. The other thing you can do is to start getting comfortable in the multi-threading stuffs. So for example, you would have already learned what exactly is a queue. You can enqueue a data and then you can dequeue a data. Try to code. How do you do that in a multi-threading world? At times you would have to deal with a multi-threading code. So that will help you a lot. You can get comfortable with one of the frameworks to write code. For example, Spring. So using Spring, you can build a REST API. So you build a backend service. The REST API can be called to the Spring framework based code. And then you can call the databases. There are multiple tutorials on Spring framework in a series of videos, around 20 videos or 15 videos, etc. Go through them and get comfortable and build an API. You can call those APIs using Postman, and you can learn one of the databases as well. I'm again not saying get into the depth of the database. Database is a different ocean altogether, but at least learn the basics, that how do you get the data and how do you set the data. If you learn that much, you should be good as a beginner. Learn any of the databases. Learn MySQL, learn Postgres, MS SQL, or MongoDB, any of those things, and you can get yourself started. Now, the fourth thing I would suggest is that build your own project. So that's the next step. Now you have learned the tooling and stuff. Now I would say that build typical system which has a UI, backend, and the database. You can leave the UI and you can call the APIs using Postman, but build the backend and build a database, and then try to connect from your backend service to the database using the REST API. Once you do that, you will get a bigger picture of how things are working. So that will help you to understand the overall flow. The last one is completely optional, and that is try to learn basics of system design. Again, I'm not saying that build the next Twitter or build the next YouTube, but try to watch the system design videos on YouTube to have the basic breadth on how a typical system would look like. So you would have already built a simple project for yourself, backend and the database. Now, when you look for the videos and see how a typical system looks like, you can map how would those solutions work in your case. So you will have a bigger picture of how the things work, and that will help you to become a better engineer. So this one is completely optional, but will help you to and have an understanding of pattern which is there. For example, there would be certain pattern for notification system. Likewise, there would be certain pattern for a typical API request and response. So you will get that idea, and that will help you be better at the programming. So that's all from my side for this video. I hope that I would have clarified the step-by-step approach in descending order. So the first one is very important. Get good at programming, learn one of the programming languages, learn how to iterate, how to, recurse and stuff in that programming language. Then get comfortable in the object-oriented concepts. Then learn the programming language tooling. Then try to build your own project, a simple project on your own, and then learn the bigger picture on how these things tie together. So that's the overall idea. I have also put in the resources in between the videos, for example, which book to read or which language to prefer, all those things. You can try online. There are lots of YouTube content around each of those sections, and that will help you be a better backend engineer. So that's all from my side for this video. Till the next time, bye.